many hats. So he's taking off the JMB hat now and putting on the Project Star PSOJ hat. And what I want is for for yes, I'm assisting on the project from my company's side. That's Barita Investments Limited, and we have Lauren. So thank you, Greg and Jessica. Really appreciate it. Lauren, could you join us, please? Lauren is from Blue Dot Insights. Thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. Yeah, man, that was a very good discussion. So we want to jump into. So I'm gonna act like I don't know anything about Project Star, because you see, when we're on a forum like this, 150 plus people on Twitter Spaces, and we have over 50 people here. They get a bit shy. They see Keith Duncan and they say, "Boy, that's not Uncle Keith. That's a Keith Duncan." We don't want to ask something and it's sound away, right? And that's a Lauren who always say Manish Water on Twitter, and we don't really know if I'm approachable yet, right? So I'm gonna find out say I'm very approachable tonight, right? So Keith, my understanding is that this is your brainchild. Tell us high level about Project Star, and I'm going to start with one of the questions that almost everybody is asking: how is this different from everything that has been done before?
Yep, yep, yep. I get that question about 50 times this week already, right? And let me just start and by Jamaica's productivity has been declining for the last 20, 30 years. Labor productivity has been declining. We have a murder rate of over 1,000 of people dying per year for the last 20 years. We have communities that have been marginalized and depressed for many years, right? We have education that is not giving us the outcomes that we want as a country, right? And we know that and even in some of the most marginalized, depressed communities, you don't have the best educational institutions. You don't have Campion in down in any of these areas and these communities, right? Now, let me say, so during COVID, the PSO, even prior to COVID, we said human capital development has to be the way to go. There's no growth in your country unless your people grow. And therefore, the mantra for the PSOJ is inclusive growth, advocacy to action, growth, inclusive, equitable growth. That means everybody must grow. That means we need to raise the incomes of everybody, not just the top 10%, not just the top 1%. Our wider population, the per capita income must grow, and at the lowest levels, we have to train our people to be able to take on higher value added jobs so that they can earn more. So Jamaica's per capita income, which is like 5,000 approximately US per year, when you compare to Barbados and Trinidad, $18,000, our average citizen earn one third of what the citizen earn in Barbados and Trinidad. There's no reason for us to be poor, not with the amount of resources that we have in Jamaica, right? We have been able to achieve a level of macroeconomic stability in this country over the last 10, 12 years. Bring interest rates down to down to their lowest of lows, bring inflation into a balance, have a independent central bank, and we and bring in and some level of exchange rate stability, right? We don't have exchange rate moving 100% per year anymore. You might have a 10% depreciation. You might have it fluctuating within a band. You know what I mean? But it's not what we were in the 90s and up to 2010. We have a stable economy. Now it's time to focus on growing. And where will the growth come from? It takes people to grow. Trained people to grow your economy, right? Now, so human capital development was important to us. And PSOJ has anybody heard about the Consensus Monitoring Oversight Committee, which is supposed to monitor the government of Jamaica's crime strategy? No, it's called Plan Secure Jamaica. This is the government of Jamaica crime plan crime strategy. There are pillars to that strategy. The first pillar is social and community transformation. The second pillar is legislation, putting in the right legislation because our legislation is outdated. Firearms Act, you see that being updated now, and then we argue about it in Parliament till them land out where it should land. We have the Bail Act too that we need to upgrade because as soon as a man as a man commit a crime and then go in front of the judge give him bail. No, what we have, we're operating in a low consequence environment, right? So therefore, what we need to do is our laws need to be upgraded and updated so that those who commit the crime, they do the exactly, right? So therefore, that is the legislation. Then there's the reforms of the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the Jamaica Defense Force. When you run a broke pocket economy, as we did for so many years, without the fiscal room and space, you cannot invest in the national security architecture. Over the last 5-6 years, we have invested about $50 billion in giving the police mobility, technology, right? Technology in terms of forensic, lab, DNA, this, that, the other, training, and the JDF in terms of equipping them so that we can protect our borders. That money has been invested. So therefore, and then you have to upgrade your police force. You have to train your police force. And you have to transition your police force from a low trust, where there's low trust with the public, and increase the trust, reduce that trust deficit, right? Then there is the whole correctional reform. You ever see the state of the prison them yet? Right? And is that going to reform anybody? 50% of those who go into jail, into prison, return back to jail within 5 years. 50% of them. There's no reform taking place. Those are the legs of the Plan Secure Jamaica, and there's work actively going on in each leg. Are we seeing the results yet? Are we seeing a result in downturn in crime? No. Now, as we have heard the numbers that Capri put out, about $380 billion spent over 10 years in social programs that we never get the results we want to get. You know why we don't know if we got the results? We don't know if we get the results because there was no monitoring and evaluation, no tools in place to really monitor to see if you get the results from it. Now, there are a lot of non-governmental organizations, ministries, departments, and agencies doing a lot of good work in the social and community transformation, but it's not measured, and it's not cohesive, it's not coordinated, it's not synergistic, right? So in a community, you have them focus on at-risk youth, but what about the parents? What about that child? What about the psychosocial, those that face gunshot every day in them life, them stress out, them have post-traumatic stress disorder? If you don't address those root issues, then you're not going to turn this thing around, right? So therefore, Project STAR is about focusing on choosing communities, and we start with 10. Larren is part of the team. Simon is part of the team because we have to fund this.
Not personally.
And we talk about the fund a little bit. But I'm just going to give a high-level overview, and I'm going to allow Larren to give his own perspective, right, and share the thoughts, because I know you've been working through the strategy and how we're going to engage. And so high level is that you have to do the social transformation elements, right? So you have to have social programs that are targeted from early childhood through the 5 to 14-year-olds who are the targets for the gangs, through the at-risk youth, which are the 15 to 29-year-old, and through the parents, right? And then you have to have cross-cutting psychosocial. Then you have to have mindset change, because everybody's there just believe that. Everybody throw up them hand now, and say, no, we're not going to win. This not going to work out. Me not trust the police. Me not trust nobody. Me not trust MP. Me not trust this. Me not trust politician. Me not trust private sector. Me not trust nobody. But they're on my own. That's where people are with their mindset at this point in time. So when we go into a community, we have to say, we can turn this community around, and we're going to be in here for a 4 to 5 year period in your community. And we're going to design with you the social programs, because you know what is needed for your community. We're going to work with you to design what are those social interventions that are required across the life cycle of the community to determine what is best fit for your community They tell you education, working with the teachers. If it's a homework program, it's homework program. If it's a sports program, it's a sports program. If it's a mentoring, it's a mentoring. If it's a social, if it's at-risk training, it's at-risk training, right? So therefore, you are blanketing with social programs across a community, right? Then you can social intervene and you have no economic opportunity on the other side for the people then. The people then want to work. Now we hear that Jamaica's unemployment number is at 6.2% or 6.2%. But you know that there are 2 million people, 2 million people that are eligible for the workforce in Jamaica. 1.3 million people, and that's between ages of 14 and 65. 1.3 million people have made themselves eligible for the workforce. In other words, them say they want to work and they actively look at work. That means 700,000 are out of street, not working, not even looking for work. Now, of that number is approximately 250,300 are in school full-time or part-time. That means you have about 350, 400,000 people between the age of 14 and 65 that are actively seeking employment. Out of that, between the ages of 14 and 44, probably have about 250, 300,000 that are just sit down on the roadside. Why? Not because they're lazy, because they don't know how to access job opportunities. When you say have job fear, the place ram up with job fear. They don't know them, they believe them community. We have one of the groups that working with us, and they carried that are now going to be partners as we go forward. And they carried the one named Gentlemen in the Maxfield Avenue group, and they carried some young men up to Hollywell the other day. 99% of the man them never leave them community yet. Yet. You understand? Never leave them community yet. So therefore, what we're saying here, so therefore, these are the you guys that are young people that are sitting down in the community. They really don't know how to go about accessing jobs. They don't have the skill sets. They don't have the training. They don't have the soft skills to be able to access jobs. So what the private sector, what we're going to do, we have an economic transformation component of this. So you have the social component, where you work on the actual trying to change the values, the attitudes, and try and get people back into a positive mindset. Try to get the parents not to abuse their children so the children don't turn out to be violent and all this kind of thing. All of those various things. And then you have the economic transformation component. So you have to create jobs. So the private sector, you say you need people. We need people. Then we now have to ensure now that we can prepare these people. Go dip into that pool that's called the supply. You have the demand. So we're going to work on the supply side and work with the young people and men, women, youth, whatever, to see how we can train them up, soft skills, technical skills, how to work in a formal environment, how for the workplace to accept them and don't look for them address and say them I got thief with. How to ensure that the people them don't have imposter mentality, to ensure when them go into the workplace, them don't have a level of feeling of inferiority. Or when they go into the workplace, how do I function in a formal environment? Right? So that is important. So the job creations work stream of the economic transformation. And then the second work stream is about working with the businesses within these communities, access to finance so they can grow their businesses. Access to finance, formalizing their business in terms of getting them microinsurance and all them things, because a man place bond down, that's it. They have no insurance, they have nothing, no risk protection. So we're going to be helping them with entrepreneurship. We're going to be training them in financial literacy, and we're going to do access finance. This is where all of us come in. Simon, everybody, all of us come in. Have to go do the work with the people in these communities, so businesses can grow their communities. And then the third work stream is for corporates who would never have access to the community because they're afraid of gunshot, is to invest their money in these communities. Invest in these communities. They earn from these communities, but they now need to see how they can invest in their communities. I did a little thing out with Epoch on the corner, and I went into Arnett Gardens, and I sit down with some man inside the Arnett Gardens, and the man them say, look here now, Keith. And them carry me to a place called Ambassador Theatre in Arnett Gardens. It's a big big structure in the middle of Anegans. Now, Jamaica, in Kingston, BPO space required is 160,000 square feet in just Kingston and St. Catherine alone, right? Now, in the middle of Anegans, here is a big structure sitting, right, with a pool of labor right around it. How can we get organized through capital markets deals and talking to business people to say, make that investment here. It's right here. The land is owned by the government. Government, work together with us. Let's put up a structure here. Let's fund it. Let's get it up and running. And a businessman who is enlightened will take that opportunity and create jobs right there in Anegans, invest right now there in Anegans. So you're creating jobs internally and externally for residents, and you're having businesses grow in the community because you're working with them, providing with them access to finance, and you're creating and you're creating investment. So you increase in economic activity in the community. Real estate prices going to go up. Everything going to go up because there's activity. They're going to be as a result of social transformation and economic transformation in these communities. What do you have? Reduce crime and violence. We're not going in there to say we're going to reduce crime and violence. We're going in there to work with the people for them to design and own the plan to transform their communities. That is the plan, but it starts with mindset change. The whole of we have to believe that this is possible. We can do it. And we have to give it time. So I must go up on Project Star, whatever, Twitter and Instagram and projectstarjamaica.com and see how you can help. How you can help. Because we can turn this thing around. I will start with 10 communities, a price tag of $2 billion. 350 million will come from corporate funding, 650 million from a JSSE listing, Jamaica Social Stock Exchange listing, right? And I know people know about it, but the stock JSSE, but it's not really out there. Simon works on that team to working for the listing, and we want to listen about October, November, right? But we want to go more mass financing, right? Middle income upwards, that kind of thing, Simon. That's what I think the thinking is. As wide a net as possible. Like if you can invest $5,000 in Jamaica, you know, I get back your money, you know. You invest for a return on Jamaica. Larren said best, right? Larren can say that investing for social impact, right? You're investing in Jamaica. If we create a better Jamaica, a stronger Jamaica, a more resilient Jamaica, a Jamaica that care about people, what do you think we am? Crime rates must come down. We become a more attractive investment destination for local investors and for foreign investors. Jamaica must boom because Jamaica is a gold mine. Jamaica is a gold mine. It's just that we now mine it, you know. So
All right, thanks, Keith. Night, everybody. I'm Larren, as previously stated. So I'm a member of the Project Star team, and my role is I have two roles. One on the data side, because to answer your question, Simon, what separates Project Star from all other social intervention and transformation programs is that we're heavily and actually solely data driven and evidence based. So um, and to be frank, it's a daunting task because one of the early stats that we heard was that Jamaica has the most social transformation or intervention programs in the world, right? And in the last 10 years, almost $400 billion has been spent on social transformation programs. Um, when you know double that has been spent on education, but it's still alarming. 898 billion spent on education, and almost half of that was spent on social transformation in the last 10 years. So the question is, why haven't we seen the impact? And just to say that there are very successful social programs that have happened, but they just haven't been measured, and there hasn't been that data collection aspect of it to measure these programs. So we started with data. Everything is data-based, data-driven. We selected the 10 communities based on several data sources, two primary ones being violence or violence-related injuries, so VRI data, which is what we get from the hospitals, so stabbings, shootings, along with crime data from the police force. So we look at where the stabbings and the shootings take place, the communities that that happens, or where the patients in the hospitals come from, and then also the data from the communities. So we're looking at that data plus other data. We did extensive asset mapping. Asset mapping is looking at buildings, structures, points of interest in communities, and just to share some interesting insights that we see is that wherever there are derelict buildings, there's an tendency for crime to happen around those areas. So imagine having that data now. We go into a community, we fix up the building, or we make use of it. Well, cameras too, but turn it into something useful for the community. And simple thing like like street lights, for example. Looking at some data the other day, sexual assault committed in areas where there are no street lights, right? And imagine just being armed with that data and going into a community and then putting a street light there, just the impact that will have. So like I said, very, very evidence based, data driven, where we will be at every single point of interaction with community members is going to be logged. And then we take themes from that, and then we learn from that, iterate, pivot if we need to. So, why I'm confident that this particular program would work is because of how much data we're collecting and how much data we're going to analyze and use to make the improvements in the communities. Um, on the matter of the JSSE, like Keith said, when that time comes in October, hopefully we'll get there by October. I encourage everybody to give back to Jamaica, and an investment in Project Star on the JSSC. The ROI is a better Jamaica, because I say it all the time. I don't want to have to migrate, so I'm doing every single thing that I can to ensure that I come comfortably staying here in Jamaica. Yeah.
Let me add to. Thank you very much, Larry. And another important point is the governance structure that we put in place and management structure we put in place to monitor. So this is civil society led, right? And private sector, civil society, and we have what we call an oversight committee. Now this is co-chaired by myself and the commissioner, Major General Anthony Anderson. Now the police are a key partner in this because they have to create the safe space for us to operate, while continue to build on the trust element, reducing that trust deficit that exists with the JCF and the community. And I don't know if anybody heard the commissioner at the launch of Star, but on the level of the community, they have good working relationship with the police in the main. However, there is some trust deficit things that has to be eroded, and so we work with the JCF. We're also going to be signing an MOU and with the government of Jamaica, because when we go into a community, we want to be able to, as Larry just said, we have to put in internet in the community so people can go online and learn. We have to be able to put in street lights because we want to make sure that the communities have street light. We want to get sanitation. We want to make sure the garbage can pick up. We want to work with Jamaica Social Investment Fund to get the environmental wardens. These are employed within the community to ensure the community remain clean. You understand what I'm saying? So and then you want to make sure that there are good green spaces, football field, this, that, the other, using those spaces so that the community. No, so we're going to be working with the government of Jamaica also, but this is led by civil society. So you have an implementation committee, you have a job creation and livelihood committee. Larren sits on that also, and then we have the project implementation that monitors this day to day. Then you have what you call community transformation boards. The community transformation boards are comprised of the local leadership, community-based organizations, community development councils, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, HEART, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, community leaders, the church, everybody sitting there. Their job is when Larren and them run data, and we sit down with the community and we design the strategy for the community to achieve social cohesion and economic transformation of that community. the community buy into that plan, and we're working towards that plan. And that is guided by the Community Transformation Board, on which the community sit, and they own that plan. You understand? That's a big differentiator. And then you have all the programs working at the same time, not just at-risk youth, because everybody tends to just focus at the, make a focus on the youth them at risk, is right across the board, from children, through parents, through all programs. So they're feeling the impact of this, and they're feeling the impact of the economic, the jobs, and the training of the business people within the community, the access to finance, to them feeling it right across the community, and them say, oh, so this can really happen. This can really work. We can really turn on our thing. Start to believe. And once we start to believe, we will achieve, you know?
Thanks, Keith and Lauren. And I mean, outside of just myself, this program is and project is fully supported by Stocks on the Rocks. We want to partner with you as from the financial literacy perspective. It's something it's something that we found very important. So the Twitter following, the social following. I mean, I don't want to say it away, but that's a small percentage of Jamaica. So the people that we're reaching with our tweets, the people, even the people that we're reaching here, tends to be the same subset of that already small group. But when you travel east, if you guys look over there, you realize the lights stop right there, right? When you travel east, and we've done surveys on that side of the island, you realize the type of financial education that we have exposure to and that is within our realms are not necessarily over there, and they don't have access to that. So a very important part of what we learned is that the person that lives in St. Thomas, just right there, has a completely different perspective on taxation than the person that lives next door in St. Andrew in Bull Bay, right? And when you go even further down in Portland, which we just did a financial literacy workshop there. So that's what we want to continue to do. So we're actually going into West Kingston soon. We want to support Project Star with Kingston. We're thinking about some rural areas in Trelawney, which, oh, big up to Ricardo and his team here from One and One. I see his wife Carla and the Sagicor team. So big up for coming to you. We Ricardo and I were talking about some of those more rural communities that don't have exposure. Just having that access is, so, oh, may I got Stocks on the Rocks and Palisadoes, and you just go there and have access to that. And because a lot of us have YouTube, and we tend to take advantage of that and say, wait, other people don't have YouTube? A lot of people that don't have access to even the device or the internet to get that done. So those are some of the things that we want to work on with Project Star. And certainly when it comes on to spreading those financial concepts, things that we consider simple, things that some of us have grown up on, some of us learned late in life, a lot of people don't know at all, right? And then we will wonder why people make mistakes with money. They just don't know, as Keith and Lauren just said. So even if you just started investing and you talk to somebody about in your 3 month investment journey, some of the information that you share is information that I would have never heard before, right? So that's how from one side of me where I think we can add value through Stocks on the Rocks. Certainly, we are supporting with the capital side, or the capital raise side on the Jamaica social stock exchange, which, as Keith said, I mean, let's just say it's less popular than the Jamaica Stock Exchange, where we have a larger base of investors. And I think a part of the reason is not necessarily just the marketing of that side of the market, but people respond to incentives, and people are naturally more open to making a financial return for their personal gain rather than to make a social return that they may not benefit from significantly. So there are people here that the crime don't significantly affect them personally. So it's in this space, but they can go to the gated apartment. They have a armed security, and by the time them reaching, they're relatively safer than the average Jamaican. So this social return really speaks to benefiting Jamaica overall. Matter of fact, I think some people um think a bit too small as it pertains to that. Because if the rate of crime is down and our communities are safer, the formal economy grows. The formal economy can benefit from that. The amount of companies and entrepreneurs like Lauren, like I see Tyrone, I see Ricardo and the group can benefit from that and grow companies, and we'll have more listings on the stock exchange, and the economy overall will grow larger, right? So that's a part of what this project is. Keith said something recently that made me start to think about Project Star a bit differently. Epoch, one of the most Epoch wasn't new in that there was a group of people talking about economic transformation. There have always been groups of powerful people talking about economic transformation. The difference with Epoch was that there was buy-in across the table, and everybody around the table agreed that this is something that we must do. Not necessarily because my company is bigger than yours, so I have a bigger capital balance, so you can go over there, but because this is Jamaica, and the decision was made then to help, because if Jamaica fails, then we are all eventually affected. And that's how I kind of think of Project Star, where this is where we make the decision to support our country from the social impact perspective. So we want to take some questions. We're having a bit of trouble with the Twitter Spaces, so guys, remember you can tweet hashtag SOTR. But are there any questions about Project Star? Yes, sure.
No, reporting is important. Monitoring and evaluation and reporting is very important. So therefore, we have raised close to 121 to $150 million so far from corporates. Barita, JMB, Scotia, NCB, Carreras, Ray Neville. They have a lot of come on board because they, as Simon says, enough is enough. Make us try to turn this around. No, we want the whole of Jamaica in this conversation. No, but we have to report to the country. So we're going to report on the key performance indicators, the process indicators for the project to the public on the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange, social media, traditional media. Keep the public engaged. We have a whole lot of interest from the diaspora. They have always been sending back money, and them say, boy, I don't even know if I get a return and if them they rob up my money, right? No, the fact is that we want to be very transparent around this. Very open. You see how like Epoch report every 3 months, and you see something in the newspaper with most of it don't even understand sometimes, and it's rewrite it. You understand what I mean? I say? So what I'm saying is that there will be transparent reporting, broken, simpler, you understand, so that people can understand and see the progress we're making and the learning, because we don't pretend we have every answer, and we're going to learn as we go along. Yeah.
Thanks. Oh, and before we go to the question, that's actually a part of it, the learning part, where there's this constant feedback loop. So, and that's literally on the chart. So, Lauren, you can just talk about that briefly, and then we can go to the question.
Yeah, man. So like I said before, we had a meeting today, a pretty interesting meeting today, just discussing how at every single step of the process, the data collection happens, and the systems that are put in place, and then using fancy technology to pull themes from it, AI, machine learning, etc., to pull themes from those interactions with the communities and the outcomes, and then just monitoring, evaluating, measuring, because that which cannot be measured cannot be managed. Just the card. Yeah. I think it back now. Yeah, man. So the constant feedback loop is with all the severe sectors. So going into a community, talking to community members, and them saying, "Boy, I have a son, or I have this particular skill set." Logging that, and then going now to the economic oversight committee or the job creation committee and saying, we have X amount of youth in this community that need these type of jobs, and then taking that now to STC, JSAFE, and corporate Jamaica and saying, hey, we have these youths that fit this criteria. Do you have jobs for them? And then placing them, and then collecting that and then feeding that up into the bigger picture. It's just a consistent, persistent feedback loop. I want to touch on one point. So on the point of how this is a whole of Jamaica approach. I got bashed on Twitter today. I'm still getting bashed right now for talking about volunteering today, for talking about volunteerism. But on the website, on the Project Star website, there is a form there, should be there by now, that you can fill out to identify where you can add value to us in the project. It's not just about cash. Guess we want when we launch on the JCC for you to put it, to donate whatever you have. But we also want all Jamaicans to be a part of this project. Right? It is very, very important. It is critical. We're at a turning point now. I am also on the Crime Stop board, and just some important facts that have come in, some data, or just data, is the tips have increased significantly, right? But the request for rewards has decreased. And what that says to me is that people are tired and they're fed up, and Crime Stop pays pretty good money. You have people collecting $400,000 for reporting guns, right? And so it's decent money. But the request for reward has decreased, and that says a lot to me, even just anecdotal, without going and asking them why they're not requesting the reward. And the tips have increased 91%. So, we're at a tipping point in Jamaica. We have to do something. We all have to do something, right?
And just to say that the government of Jamaica is on board. Everyone would have seen that Andrew Holness came out and actually supported the program. Mark Golden and the PNP actually came out and support. I have met with them, and they are fully on board, fully engaged. They are comfortable with this being civil society led, and just so that we can manage this thing very effectively and manage it like how we manage a business. Tight.
Thank you, Keith. Now for the question from Charon, you can just the mic.
All right, so Simon, Keith, Lauren, patrons, good evening. My question is, I like what you guys are talking about. I like the ideas. Everything sounds good, and I'll be happy to work with you guys. I'm the president of the Rotary Club of New Kingston, so we'll definitely be willing and to work with you guys. So pretty much my question is, a lot of the things that I see happening, I think a lot of it has to do with education. What's the plan in terms of education that you guys have to work with these especially the kids? Because we've been in some of these communities, and a lot of the kids, they can't read. That's the truth of it. They can't read. So even if they get to adult stage, most of them won't take on education at the adult stage. So what's the plan for those persons in terms of bringing them up to speed in terms of education wise? Do you have so many plans you're working?
Yeah, man. Yes, sir. So in the list of interventions, what we have, we call them behavioral challenges and learning problems, and there are specific programs that are in the menu of interventions that you choose from to address this. So when you go into the community, and as Larren said, and get the data and then figure out how much they're going to check out a school and find out how much of the children actually they are not where they should be and what needs to be applied, that we will now call in that social intervention program and say, work with this school. Work with these teachers. If we have to do teacher training, we do teacher training. If we have to bring in early childhood officers, we bring in early childhood officers. In other words, in working with the government of Jamaica also, you're also pulling from them. And we sign an MOU with them so we can get the best of the government of Jamaica inside of those, addressing those things. We did that in Salt Spring in Montego Bay, where we focused on, and this was the private sector out of Mobile with some support from us. And we focused on, it was 4 schools in Salt Spring, a small community in Mobile. Murder rate was 88. And because they took care of the children and give them breakfast, lunch, pay the teachers to do extra lessons. And for the whole Salt Spring community, it cost us a couple $100,000 a month. And the community bought in so much to this. We just focusing on the children. That murder rate went down from 88 to 8 in 2 years' time. And hard policing, them could have pulled back the hard policing and straight soft policing going on in Salt Spring. That don't mean you won't hear a murder every now and again. But what I'm saying is that if you focus on the youth and the children, and these become the targets for the gangs, 5 years' time, 10 years' time. Yeah. So there are programs. I mean, I can read them out to you and all the menu of programs that are there. Yeah.
And it's done by age group.
By age group, 6 to 11, yes, 5 to 14, and the different age groups and the different problems and what are the programs that are designed here. You're pulling in programs to address a particular issue that the data shows up.
Thanks. We have another question, Trevor. Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to know, where are the 10 communities located, and what was the data that was used to drive the decision in selecting these communities?
Good question. I don't remember the full 10 on the list off the top of my head. I can dig up my email before the night. Before I leave, I'll come back up and let you know. So the communities were selected based on several variables, primarily crime data and hospital or data from the hospitals with stabbings and shootings, violent crime data.
That
Right?
don't get reported to the police.
Yeah.
They're not reported. So it's violence-related incidents that don't get reported. So you combine the hospital data and the crime data. That when you have what shows up in there is domestic disputes and all of that. When then you get reprisals from that and all that kind of thing, right? So that's what the hospital data will show up when something is brewing, when something is up, it's getting to a place, and that's on that basis, right? Yeah, which shows 3 communities. East.
Yeah. So East Kingston one, so that includes Parade Gardens, not too far from here, where there's also, yeah, Tel Aviv, Savlamar, I believe is the one that we'll get to next, and Mapen, right? Yeah. So East Kingston, Sav, Mapen, out of the 10 we'll do hopefully within the next year. But we started with East Kingston, getting some learnings. Work has already started there. We're getting the learnings in, and yeah, we're using the data, the crime data. True story, very humbling experience for me, because when we're going through the first list, the community that I'm from in Montego Bay is number 7, and I was completely shocking to me, and my dad still lives there, right? So yeah, it's we all have to do something, guys. Yeah.
It's a big opportunity for us, man.
And so I have another quick question, Trevor. So we'll just take two more, please, if we don't have any online.
The volunteer program, are the forms submitted online, or do we have to print out?
Online. Online.
This is the project
So Project Star GA or Project Star GA on all the socials. I realize it. Project Star GA on all the social.
Yeah.
So we take Malik, and there's a question from a guy.
Night again. Is there a digital version of the booklet that you had?
Yeah, man. I can share it, Simon. You can share it with everybody.
Yeah, man. So Keith will share that with me, and I'll send it widely. I'll send it in the Telegram group and try to get a link to post on Twitter. Guys, just a plug. We have a Telegram group with almost 1,700 people now, and we talk about finance and investments almost every day, sometimes all day. It's a very good place to put your questions. No question is stupid. It's an open and inclusive community that allows all investors to kind of bridge that gap. So we have advanced investors like Malik, and we have younger investors that come in and ask. So ask one of the members of the Stocks on the Rocks team for the link, or search for us on Telegram at SOTR community. And again, I want to thank the 100+ people that are still on Twitter Spaces, listening to us. We have a question behind you, Malik. Oh, you have one more.
You can also scan the QR code to get into the group, but
Yeah.
pertaining to
I'm young, you see the Gen Z them go on.
I don't know if this passed me, but will the Project Star initiative maybe also take place in rural areas where there's not maybe a lot of crime, but there's still a low level of resources?
So we've chosen 10 communities, and those are the communities we're going to begin with. That's the price tag of 2 billion, right? And the intention is, as we develop this model and all the learning that Larren spoke to, that we will get, that we will have a model that's scalable, replicable, and can be applied to other communities. Yeah.
So that's the hope, the initial 1 to 3, 4 to 10 to I saw 20 at one point is really to get to fine tune that model. Nothing is perfect. There are going to be problems with the structure and the feedback. But the good thing, as Keith mentioned, is the governance and that feedback loop, which you'll see in the document, is constant. So that can change. And to be honest, because this is private sector led, um, it it can be more efficiently managed than public sector comes with a lot of red tape and bureaucracy, and you have to go to the PS and the minister and the minister and the minister, then the PM, and you have to feed that back down, right? Larry.
The other thing to note is that I think, Keith, we purposely did not are not seeking multinational or NGO multilateral funding, because like from UN whatever, because they come with their own specific requirements, and we want to tell they pretty much tell you how to do it and what to do. So we want Jamaicans and people who love Jamaica to fund this, so that we can have that control over it.
I have one more question.
All right. Good night again. Okay. So my question is related to the effectiveness of this program, and it's related to how the message is related to our young children. Because if you look at culture now, the main thing is chopping or scamming. Um, yeah. So we will see people who are in this type of occupation. They will drive into the community, show off their Toyota Crowns and Mark X's and brand new Clarks and shoes that they made from other people's money. So my question is, what are there any is there any strategy in place to kind of increase the effectiveness of the message, and how do we how do we place it in our minds of our young children that this is wrong, and this is not the best way to go? Because scamming does, whilst it is wrong and whilst it is very high risk, it does have a very high return, and that return is very quick. So that's
For sure. For sure, the messaging has to be to ensure that. But first of all, the youth them have to be able to see that there are options, and then you're not only just creating low-paid jobs for the youth. You have to create jobs, whether it's forklift operator, truck driver, mason, certified, electrician, tiler, certified, where them can earn good money, where they not have to go and earn minimum wage. They can actually get certified and earn a decent income. The stress that come with being a scammer, and that we can always, but them earn the big money, but duration and the durability and the longevity of that all. And of course, we have to get that message right. But first of all, you have to give them options. You have to give them hope, and you have to give them options. And we think that if we get to them early, that's why we intervene from 5 to 14, get to them early so that they can be properly prepared, and then not think of themselves as dunce. They know that they have the skills, the capacity, and the capability, and the intellect to do it.
And I guess I can just close that off with saying this is kind of why you need that literacy component as well, and exposure. I find that as the guys were saying, a lot of them youth them never leave the community, or them never go beyond a half a tree, ever. So in some of their minds, they may already, and their community may already be limiting the opportunities that they think they have. So when you go in and you can show them opportunities, and you can teach them about that risk return trade off. Because to me personally, the scamming risk return not worth it.
Cause me know how the police a jump my fence like how them jump the fence a day and you know me wake up I go to the bathroom and I look up in a rifle. Me no want that. Right? If me hear a sound in my backyard, me can say, hello, who's that? Oh, just the dog. All right, that's all right. Them type of life them I like, you know. So it's for us and everybody here. And I close off with this message. Everybody here has a role to play. Your role may be to invest through the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange. Your yeah. your role may be to volunteer. Your role maybe you don't have the time to volunteer or the money to invest. But you see a youth on the road and you stop him and you talk to him and say, yo, or everything stay. Because you'd be surprised a lot of these and this is for the men, a lot of these youths don't have that positive me. There are male role models in their life, but they don't have that positive male role model in their life. So when they can talk to our Uncle Keith and our Uncle Lauren and Ricardo and Tyrone and them progressive men, you know. Yes, Lauren, you reach Uncle yet. Oh, Lauren. When they can talk to the progressive men and the money might talk to them about family, you know, about investing, about the opportunities that even exist beyond the borders of their communities, but beyond the borders of Jamaica and the region, but taking their ideas globally, getting capital for whatever businesses they want and strategies to do that. That's how we can open that up. So I want to thank Keith. So Keith had on his JMB hat tonight. We had a very good discussion about that. He has on the PSOJ Project Star hat. Keith really appreciate you coming out. I know this is a very busy week for Keith because this is the week that Project Star is launched. And he's having these conversations over and over again, trying to get that buy-in from as wide a base as possible. Lauren really appreciate you. You know, Lauren is Lauren probably never load it up, but Lauren is doing a lot of work on the data side. When the presentation was done to me and just the type of data, it's Dr. IE as well. Yeah, just the type of data and mapping that they've collected, like they know how much church in the communities, how much light posts, and where the crimes happen specifically, where it's centered. And when you can get that targeted information and use the data from Lauren Blue Dot's side, it's transformational.